Hey guys, Robert and Ingrid here, and we're about to see Aliens. The people say it's just as good as the first, but for its own different things. First one was entirely a suspense horror. This one, action horror.
Well, I do like both sides of the coin there, so
Yep.
it's just like,
We got James Cameron directing. We're going to be introduced to the Colonial Marines and the Alien Queen.
oh, of course.
This is where we're gonna have some of the real big quotes and everything. One in particular, which we did, I don't want to say, but you know probably what it is from Ripley. But yeah, we're just on a high after seeing that first one. Let's go in and see this one. We'll see you guys at the other end. Take care. Hey guys, we just got done seeing it and equal to the first. Very much equal, but very different. Everything you've heard is true. It is so much equal, but while the first one was a horror, pure suspense horror, this was action horror. But Ripley steals the show. Can we agree that this was her movie? This was her movie. Last one was still an ensemble, with her having slightly the lead and being the last one standing. No, this one was her movie.
Right from the start.
Right from the start, especially the fact that she got screwed. She got, because when did she wake up?
57 years later. Like, she may have survived, but the life she knew was gone.
Her daughter is gone, which we never knew she had, but then to find out she did have one, and to lose her, and to find out there's no other family, nothing, no relatives, no, nothing but her daughter. We don't find we never hear about her husband, but I think that was intentional. But and then we're introduced to Haley's Hope, which is on LV 426, and oh boy, talk about a great setup, right?
Yeah.
Well, before I know, when she's being brought before the board, oh boy, was that infuriating. At the same time, you're like, that's what would happen. Even nowadays, that's what would happen.
Exactly.
I mean, granted, you can't blame them for being skeptical, right?
Yeah, but it's like beyond a certain point where it's just like, yeah, you might have to go for a little bit of record diving, but if you were interested in finding out what was true as opposed to what was expedient, you could have done that.
Yep. I mean, but at least she wasn't arrested for it. The worst she got was losing her license, which, all right. But at the same time,
her old life is more or less over. Last nail in the coffin.
Exactly. And she's having nightmares, which I don't blame her. Both having to deal with the alien, but especially seeing what happened to Kane. I think you had a feeling that affected her more than anything else was Kane's birth.
I mean, that was, like, the thing that you saw front and center. I mean, like, everything else with the alien was bad, but it's, like, mostly, like, touch and go, relatively speaking. That was
and she didn't see most of it.
Thing.
She didn't even see most of them. They all happened away from her. She just knows what happened. Now, of course, this movie's taking into account that deleted scene wasn't shown, so... Because otherwise, why did she not recognize, the stuff? Because, obviously... it was, you know what I mean, right? Sequel to the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
But, yeah, she didn't see any of her friends' deaths. So, but that explains most of her nightmares.
Yeah, and it's like, as far as she's concerned, this, like, just happened, or, like, happened a couple of months ago. That trauma is still fresh.
Yep. And then we're introduced to Newt on Haley's Hope before everything went down. And again, because remember, we're watching the director's cut here, just like we're going to do that for all the movies. And yeah, that was a chilling introduction, knowing what happens, right? Just seeing this nice place with family and kids, lots of kids.
Yeah.
And given how many xenomorphs there were, you already can tell most of them were not eaten. Would you agree with that? Most of them were not eaten or slaughtered. They were cocooned. And then Ripley, we have the guy Burke, who scumbag, but not at first.
He is a guy that was very good at putting on the act, to the point where I was kind of buying it for a while. I kind of just thought he might have been the new kid who was still kind of trying to make a name for himself in the company and was being, like, kind of awkward about it.
But by the end...
Yeah, no,
He's one of the worst.
The best I could say about him is that he deliberately decided not to learn about things, and that's being generous.
Yep. I mean, at first you can give him some leeway to a degree. Like, I take him at his word that he did not send them there to find the ship. He was sending them there and to check something else out. The ship just happened to be there and then started everything. It's like, crap, my last order started it all.
It's less intentional sabotage and more criminal negligence.
But so well acted though, right?
Yeah.
Paul Reiser was great in this. Then we get the Colonial Marines.
They sold us on the dynamic of the military squad almost immediately, like from the word go.
And then once I told you about the Vietnam parallels, it's there. It's right, all of this. It's the whole shock and awe, like, come on, you apes, you want to live forever?
It's just like, we think just because we have enough, like, raw firepower that we can solve any problem. Nope.
And you love Vasquez, of course.
Oh, yes. Vasquez is probably, like, shot to, like, one of my personal favorites in the squad immediately.
Right off the bat, like, hey, Vasquez, you ever get mistaken for being a woman? No, have you? That is great. Is it just saying that to another guy?
Do you ever get mistaken for being a man? But
that's what I meant.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Thank you for correcting.
Like,
you know what I meant.
It's like, it was just a couple of lines of dialogue shows that she completely rolls with the punches.
And of course, on Ray Vasquez, they're like, fuck you, anytime, anywhere. And she had just said that line, like, where do I shoot? Again, these facts that none of these guys, all these guys keep on feeling like, oh yeah, we're in for this. We know what we're doing. Hudson was great. Wasn't he like, we've got this, we've got that, we've got this, we got everything to kick their ass. Then we also find out that the lieutenant is new. Oh boy, the moment you heard 35 simulated, how many real? Twice, including this one, you're just like, it's obvious he's gonna break. Am I right? I mean, it's a big cliche, but that's what happens. You have people who are tossed in, and if it's going according to plan, they are golden. They are like, okay, do this. The moment it goes to shit, they lose their shit.
Random bullshit go is what I like to call it.
Exactly. And sure enough, it's a long time before the action starts, but it's one of those cases where it didn't drag.
Yeah, it's just like...
They found this perfect parallel of the shoe has not dropped yet. The shit has not hit the fan yet, but they keep building up. At first they get there, they find it's empty. So, and at least it's not a case where they're like, oh, everything's fine here. It's like, no, they know there's no colonists, so they're not stupid. Then eventually they find Newt. Oh boy, Newt is a gem, isn't she?
Yeah, she's one of the best parts of this movie.
She is, especially her and Ripley. And then they realize, oh, the people are over there in this, all gathered together like a town meeting. So they go over there and they're ambushed. Well, first, actually, I take it back. It wasn't so much an ambush, so much of the case where they soon find everything, basically, it's a docile beehive at first, until one of the colonists has a chest burster. So they burn it and all hell breaks loose. They went from over a dozen Colonial Marines to about 4.
Yeah,
seriously, no joke. Just seeing them all go. And they had the idiocy of the lieutenant, they had the idiocy of saying, give all of the ammunition magazines to one guy. What happened then? They got toasted and then boom.
Single point of failure. You always want to avoid them.
Yep. And then they get out of there thanks to Ripley. The lieutenant gets knocked out. They try to think like, we're going to nuke it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Love that line. But then their dropship got attacked. They should not have left the pod, and the bay door open. And thus, without that, they now have to figure out another way. And again, it's a lot of action, quiet time. Like the action, would you say it's in equal parts, or would you think there was more quiet time? I'm starting to really think about that.
I feel like it's more that the action had enough intensity that it felt like it was there more than it was.
Exactly. But the quiet times are all about building up both Ripley's relationship with Newt, replacing her daughter because she lost her family, and her and Hicks. And that was intentional on Cameron's part, and I loved it. Especially loved the stuff with Ripley and Hicks. It just felt like Sigourney and Bean had a great chemistry. You bought it, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, and poor Hudson, right?
Poor
Game
Hudson.
over, man. Game over.
It's like, oh wait, that's where that line's from. I certainly recognized it from being clipped everywhere.
Yep. But that's where it's fun. It's like, and, oh, wait, one bit you cracked up with. This girl's like, we can't survive for 17 hours, let alone a few weeks. This girl lasted much longer than that. You love that with Newt just going,
Yes.
why don't you just put her in charge then? But I just love, Newt had a sass to her without being sassy though. Would you agree? Like, there was just this in her body language, this sass, especially that.
Yeah.
They mostly come out at night. Mostly. I mean, it's a kid thing to say, but it's also so ridiculous. But that, I mean, obviously then, it's all about them surviving first. It's all about them surviving first, but then things go to shit when Ripley confronts Burke, and then Burke tries to impregnate them with some of the facehuggers that were found and survived. And oh boy, that was tense, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Then after that, they cut the power. How can they cut the power, man? They're animals. That was chilling, wasn't it? Because you realize they're in the vents.
Yeah.
And then we lose Vasquez. But that was epic, wasn't it? Just
It was definitely going down in a blaze of glory.
deathly, especially when her leg was burnt.
Yeah, it's like, it's the kind of death she deserved.
Definitely. And the lieutenant redeemed himself.
It's like,
Then, of course, Newt gets separated and then captured. Hicks gets hurt. They're about ready to get out of there. And then Ripley, of course, I'm going back in there. She takes one of the last pulse rifles, which Hicks taught her to shoot, takes a flamethrower, which she knows how to use already, and goes searching for her. And oh boy. Oh, before I know, there were some nice little touches here and there. Like at the very beginning when Ripley, they're looking in the lab, and there was a point where Hicks just taps her and she just jumps, but it wasn't close up on her. I love little details like that, just like, I know you noticed that.
yeah, that twitch.
Yeah, the little twitch, like, because he's coming from behind her and she's so focused in the room. But then you have a moment, though, where she finds the location bracelet that Newt had left, and you can tell her mind just shut down. Until Newt screamed, I think she was just going to succumb to her fate. You think so?
Yeah, because it's just like, well, what's there left to fight for?
Exactly. Then, but then Newt screams, so she goes and saves her. And then we meet the Queen.
Yep.
What did you think of the Queen?
I really like how they introduced her with just the
sack first of her.
Yeah, and then you're just like, well, yeah, that's about what I would expect something like that to
Looks
look
like an ant. She was like an ant queen. But I love the bit though where the aliens were about to come out, and then Ripley threatens the eggs, and then the Queen basically tells them back off. I like that. Make it very clear that this Queen has a brain in her head, like she's able to recognize threats. Then they're about to get out of there, and boy, that Queen was one persistent bitch, wasn't she?
Yep.
They eventually get out of there. Queen catches up to, follows up to them on board, and then we lead to, get away from her, you bitch. Classic
Watch out,
line.
Ripley's forklift certified.
Yep, the battle of the mamas. And I love that though.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think of how would this movie have progressed if Newt wasn't really there, and I'm thinking they would have just gotten off of Dodge, and that would have been the end of it, basically.
Yeah, but like you said, the battle, and the Queen would have just died with everything. But seriously, the battle of the moms was great. Yeah, one thing I will just give a little nitpick, but it's worse still. They deal with it just like they dealt with the first one. Send it out the airlock. But really, what do you do, right?
Yeah, like...
You can't blow it up. It'll burn the hole in the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then it ends with the way it began, them going to sleep. But, quick to summarize. This was a quick to summarize movie, but it's in the details.
Yeah, it's in, like, the real moment-to-moment things. Like, I really enjoyed watching them figure out the tactics of everything. Like,
Yep.
okay, we know that trying to blow them up ourselves is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Bad, and we know that having them a lot of routes to access us will make that really bad. So it's like Ripley's like, hey, let's go bring up some kind of like a map or floor plan of this place and identify, okay, we'll weld some of these things shut. We managed to find these turrets.
Yeah, let's use them.
Yeah, let's use them.
They'll buy us some time at least. Mm-hmm. And then there's that one bit though where they're like, wait, they're retreating. And they think like, we're out of ammo. They don't know that.
Mm-hmm. It's like, how are they supposed to know that?
Exactly. So bought them a little bit more time. And again, I like this, but once you realize the Vietnam War parallels, it's there. Mm-hmm. The Xenomorphs were the Viet Cong, using these underlying, hiding in the shadow type tactics and everything. Very good. It worked. But if you didn't know that, you wouldn't notice it. Mm-hmm. It's not blatantly obvious unless you're told it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
But then once you're told it, you can't get rid of it. Mm-hmm. Oh, but yeah, let's talk about some of the other characters. Hicks. What did you think of Hicks? Corporal Hicks?
Sorry, lots in the brain. I kind of blanked a little bit.
Yep, what did you think of him now? The one that was being the love interest and all that? I liked him. Michael Biehn really added this greatness on. And I think he really took charge once all the others were slaughtered. Mm-hmm. Because beforehand, he was just part of the crowd.
Yeah, and it's worth noting that part of the reason why he steps up is that Ripley points out that technically, after all of those deaths, he's the one that's next to the chain of command, which kind of
the lieutenant knocked out,
echoes some of the comments that she made in the first movie.
Definitely. What about Bishop?
Oh, Bishop! Bishop was too good for this world.
He's still alive, thankfully, but I love the start. When it's just like, you didn't tell me there was an android here. Why not? And again, he just describes like, oh, it malfunctioned. Malfunctioned? Mm. Well, that makes sense. Those things were, the A2s were known for being twitchy. Mm. And at first you just think like, oh no. You at first think like, when he says like, I'm not allowed to cause harm to a human being, you think he's bullshitting, don't you? Mm. Would you agree? At first.
Well, you're sort of encouraged to take Riley's perspective, Ripley's perspective at first.
Yeah, but then as it goes on, you find out, no, he's sincere. He's not Ash. Mm-hmm. And it makes more sense then to why Ash was utilized. Because if they were known for being twitchy, then...
Well, you could very easily blame anything untoward he did as an equipment malfunction. Whereas with these more high-tech models, you couldn't get away with that as much.
Exactly. Again, we adore Newt. Newt was just such a gem. Be ashamed if something bad happened to her. Mm-hmm. But again, this movie, it's easier to summarize, but again, it's in the details, and it was just so jam-packed. Mm-hmm. I cannot think of many movies that drastically changed things and yet felt like the logical continuation. Usually the case where they're incompatible, or it's just more of the same. Mm-hmm. This felt like, I think you said it best, it's more of the same, but they changed enough of the type of movie for it to make sense.
Yeah, I feel like there's a very clear internal logic to how this world works, and mm-hmm. that's sort of where they went from to make a continuation, where it's just like, I feel like this probably started as, we're going to continue the first movie, and then they kind of built out what that would be with that as the baseline, rather than starting with, okay, we're going to do something like this, and then go ahead and try to cut everything into shape to fit. It felt like it grew out very organically from what we got in the first movie. Like, yeah, once we've seen, like, one alien, you can't really use that threat in the same way again. But a whole group of them,
Yeah.
It's like, it's more than the sum of its numbers with how they manage to present it, because they show that this is like, if anything, it retroactively makes the first one better, because it's like, this is the kind of thing that could have been caused if that one alien ended up living. It's showing you, like, in real full detail, the nightmare that was only implied by the first movie.
I mean, as Ripley herself put it, if one could take out my whole crew in less than 24 hours, what can a whole colony do?
Mm-hmm.
And we found out. And I just love the arrogance of the Colonial Marines, but it's like arrogance that makes sense.
Because it's just like, the way that they talk, it's like, this isn't the only weird life form that they've seen somewhere in the galaxy. They even call it, like, bug busting.
A bug hunt, yeah, bug hunt. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, it's a bug hunt, but they never met anything like these things before.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's very quotable, of course. It set the standard for these Colonial Marine type characters.
Yeah, and it's like, I can very clearly see the impact of, like, stuff like this just in other series.
Warhammer 40K, StarCraft, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, seriously, this really set a standard. And Sigourney, again, this was the best she's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she deserved that Oscar. I think it's because they didn't have the daughter stuff in here, I think is why they lost it. That would have so pushed her over the edge to get
that would have absolutely made it into Oscar bait. It's unfortunate.
It is, and she would have deserved, I mean, her being nominated in an action movie, what does that tell you, right?
Yeah.
That tells you how much she gave her all in this. And I don't blame her for being ticked when they initially cut that stuff. I would have been.
Yeah, because it's just like, action and, like, heart are not mutually exclusive. It's just that, well, when you're just looking for a popcorn flick, you're going to cut the stuff that quote-unquote, pads out the runtime. But if you, like, really want to appreciate them, yeah, that context is really important.
And what I love best is she does not become she doesn't become Sarah Connor in this movie. You get the analogy, right? I mean, the comparison, right?
Yeah.
She instead is Mama Bear. It's still Ripley. It's still Ripley, but I think people overblow her, badassery. Would you agree? It's
like, in this case, it feels like she's kind of putting stuff together on pure adrenaline. Like, I feel like, obviously, my life has not been that perilous, but I feel like the analogous feeling is when you fighting this boss in a video game, you've got them to, like, the last fourth of their health. You're barely running on fumes, but you can see that it is actually possible to win, and that gives you the final oomph you need to kind of put the pieces together and actually get it done, even if you're probably worn out and need to go to bed, like, right afterwards.
Exactly.
It's like, the fact that you can win, the fact that she can have something of her old life back in spite of
and she'll fight for it.
Yeah, she'll, like, fight for that chance.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, and it's just phenomenal. But again, she is tough, but she's still also fragile. You know what I mean? Like, in the right way. Like, if Newt's in danger, she's gonna give it her all. But the fact that one moment where she thought Newt was dead and she just shut down, that shows that she's not just Sarah Connor. I'm almost a female Terminator. No. But at the same time, though, it does show Cameron gets strong females, though, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Both Ripley and Vasquez.
It's like, both of it, it's like, I feel like, and it's like, they're different flavors of being strong. Vasquez is probably closer to what you might call the typical stereotype of the strong female character. But even so, it shows that she's clearly had enough interaction with all of the guys for them to have formed a real camaraderie between them, and what was sort of like the original base stereotypes has sort of become affectionate in jokes and ribbing. In classic military banter like that.
Exactly. Again, the fuck you. It's like, anytime, anywhere. That's always been one of my favorite retorts to that. But, any other final thoughts you want to give?
This is a really good movie. What can I say?
Yep, well worth the hype. But now, it's a bit downhill from here. Next one, Alien 3. 1, it's back to Alien for 1. 2, it gets depressing because I'll just put it this way. This is the movie where Fox decided to have it be a cash cow franchise.
Alrighty then, well at least my expectations have been appropriately set.
Yep, we'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.